Hi guys, it's Caroline again today. Today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up, which also includes the last like 10 days or so of January. So let's get started and let's hear about the books that I read this month. First, there's 3 books that I don't actually currently have. The first one is Max Barry Lexicon, which is fantastic. It's about using words kind of as magic to influence people and make people do things they don't want to or whatever. It was so well written. I love it. The second is The Treasure Map of Boys by E. Lockhart. It was okay. It was written to someone a little younger than I am, I think. It had to deal with like boys and stuff like that, whatever. I gifted that to one of my friend's kids who will probably really like it a lot more than I did. And the third one is called The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. It won the Pulitzer Prize. Stephen King said it's one of the best half-dozen books of the last decade or something like that. And it was really good. I listened to it as an audiobook. I definitely don't think I would have been able to get through it if I listened to it as a, read it as a physical book. I guess dense would be the right word. It's very dense. But as an audiobook, it was pretty good. It took a really long time to read. It's kind of about death and grief and misfortune, but I did really enjoy it. So now, I have this lovely stack of books behind me. I don't know if you can see, because I read a lot of books. An embarrassing amount of books. The most recent book that I read, Codename Verity. I actually only finished this last night, but this is probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. Up here it says a fiendishly plotted mind game of a novel, which I absolutely agree with. When I found out, like, the end, some of the characters aren't really who you think they are or whatever, when I found some of that out, it made me want to go back and reread the novel with that knowledge to understand better. It was so good. I love it. It takes place during World War II, and it's a fictional YA novel. I will probably make a review on this book because I really loved it and I want everyone to read it. Next, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I also really liked this book. You can definitely tell that it's a little older. It came out in like the 70s, I want to say. I'm not entirely sure. But I can definitely see how in the beginning there's a foreword by Russell Davies, who wrote some of the Doctor Who seasons. And he basically describes it to that day Harry Potter, which I can definitely see. It's not funny, laugh out loud funny, but it's a very humorous novel. There's like an entire point of view of a whale's life, only like 10 minutes or something because it dies very quickly. And so it's just got so many humorous bits like that that I really enjoyed this book as well. The Last Days by Scott Westerfeld. This is the sequel to Peeps, and I think this book was a lot better than Peeps. Now, I really like Scott Westerfeld's style of writing, so I'm not surprised that I liked this book. It's about like a band, so you get that aspect of it. All of the titles are band names, and mostly like grungy, punky band names, and I like quite a few of those bands, so that was kind of exciting. But they also kind of relate to the chapter or something that happens in the chapter. So you see like the vampire disease progress, and it's the ending. It's only a duet or duology or whatever you call it. There's only 2 books. So you see how it resolves, but I really liked that it was kind of 2 stories in one. The story of the Peeps and the virus, but also the story of the band and how they all meet and everything. There are actually 3 plays that I read for class. The first one is Everyman, which I don't have. I just got a PDF of that. Then Oedipus Rex and A Doll's House. I wasn't particularly fond of either of these, to be honest. They're not bad plays. This one I thought was a little too stereotypical. Like, the woman is like a stereotypical, like, I don't know. I know it's like older, the original version. This is like a translation and stuff. So like the 60s or something. So maybe people really did act like that then, but I don't know. I would have liked to see them like break out of, you know, the stereotype more. And this is just incredibly old. Oedipus Rex is from ancient Greek, Sophocles. So while I did like this book more than A Doll's House, it's just so old. I had to look at like the Cliff Notes type things to make sure I understood everything that was going on. The Monstrumologist by Rick Yancey. I actually really liked this book. It took me a little while to read it, and I kind of put off reading it. It's kind of a YA horror type thing. This is another book that I'm going to give to my friend's daughter who really likes horror stuff. She'll like this a lot, I think. And it's about like a monster, and it's a diary slash real life at the time of this guy in like the late 1800s, I want to say. I don't entirely remember. And how they deal with monsters, things that don't actually exist. In this case, it's really tall humans without heads, basically. So they stop at the shoulders, but they're like 8 feet tall, and they eat people. I did like it, but I have so many other books I want to read. I don't think I'm going to pick up the rest of the series. Don't Love Me, Judge Me by Nathan Leone. I really didn't like this book, which pains me to say. He didn't have an editor. There's so many typos and misspellings and grammatical errors and whatever, and I just didn't like it. Starting maybe 20% from the end of the book, maybe like here, it starts actually talking about his band, so that was cool because me and my best friend in high school went to all of their shows within a 100-mile radius of where we live. We went from Maine to Connecticut and everywhere in between. We saw them a lot together, so that was kind of cool to see that part. It was hard to read because of all those errors. Cinder, the first book in the Lunar Chronicles, not Luna, sorry. Ours, you know. And this book was really good. It was a quick read. It's definitely YA. I really did like this book. I liked the retelling of a classic fairy tale we're all familiar with, having it take place in the future and stuff. I don't know. I thought it was such a cool idea that I haven't seen a lot. So I'm excited to read the rest of the series. We Are Pirates by Daniel Handler. Sorry. Why am I apologizing to you? I can just edit that out and you have no idea what happened. Okay, anyway. This book was actually pretty good. The front cover had a quote from Neil Gaiman saying something about it. The mini dust jacket that I took off because I hate dust jackets that are only half the size of the book. But I mostly picked up this book because it was pretty, then I saw it was by Daniel Handler, which I liked. It's one of his first, if not his first, adult novel. He wrote the Lemony Snicket books and also some YA books, and this was pretty good. The first like fifth or quarter was dull, but if you can get through that, I really did like this book. This and Codename Verity are my two favorite books that I read this month. Probably two of my top 10 favorite books I've read ever. It was a good month for reading. Stephen King, Dr. Sleep. This takes the boy from The Shining as an adult and how he deals with the shining or the psychic ability, and he saves a girl's life and he deals with being an alcoholic and recovering from that, and just it was so good. It was so well written. I love Stephen King's newer books. Starting with Under the Dome is the era of Stephen King that I really like. Not the horror books, but kind of like creepy stuff, I guess. I don't know. This book was so good. If you read The Shining, you should read this book. If you didn't read The Shining, you should read The Shining so that you can read this book, because it was so good. And this cover is like perfect. So those are all of the books that I read this month. Now there are 3 books that I'm in the middle of. The Diviners by Libba Bray. I've heard so many good things about this book, and I read maybe 150 pages, put it down. About a month later I picked it up, read like another 50 or 100. I just can't get into it. A Natural History of Dragons, which I don't have the dust jacket to. It's a little dull. I'm excited to keep reading it. I'm only like maybe 50 pages in, I don't know. And I'm excited to read it and see if anything happens, but I put it down. I forgot to bring it home with me for break and I haven't picked it up again since. And I am carrying around with me Good Omens by Neil Gaiman. I know, I've read a lot of his books. Neverwhere was probably the first adult fantasy book I ever read, and I loved it. And I just started this book, but it's a book I've been carrying around with me in my backpack yesterday. So I've read maybe like 75 pages or so, and I'm really excited to finish reading this. I'm going to keep carrying it around my backpack with me, probably finish it within a few days. I'm going to add a little mini favorites type clip here with a couple other bits and bobs that I've liked this month. The first 2 things go hand in hand. I bought this cup at Starbucks, and they have a lot of these type of cups. It keeps tea long literally forever. I left a cup of tea in here overnight. 10 hours later, you know, when I woke up, and was it everything, whatever, probably 10, maybe even 12 hours later, it was still lukewarm. If you are a tea drinker and you don't like to chug your tea, I highly recommend this cup. It was like 20 bucks, but it's the best 20 bucks I think I've ever spent. Starbucks started selling the Teavana teas. I have one of the wrappers here. The Peach Tranquility one, oh my god, it is so good. My Starbucks on campus, yes, we have a Starbucks on campus. We're an Aramark campus, and Starbucks provides Aramark's coffee and stuff like that, so they put one in. and they got one shipment of these and they haven't gotten any more since, which sucks, but I love this tea. It's naturally sweet with no sugar added or anything. It's herbal, so you can re-steep it a couple times. I don't know, it's just really good. I highly recommend you check this out. My favorite two songs I liked this month: Dance Gavin Dance came out with their new single. I can't remember the title of it, but the album comes out in April and I'm so excited for that album. But their new song is really good. I've also really been liking Something Bad by Carrie Underwood and Melissa Lambert, something Lambert, not Mary Lambert, the other Lambert, the country one. I watched over, maybe since Christmas, I watched the entire series of Gilmore Girls. It sounds really boring. Like, it's about a woman, her 16-year-old daughter, her mother, their lives. They live in Connecticut. Doesn't sound that great. It is hilarious. All of my favorite shows are funny shows. That's like the kind of thing I like, is funny shows and all different types of humor. But show is so good. Everyone who I've shown it to has liked it. Everyone I've talked to who has watched it has liked it. I think it's impossible to dislike it. I'm so glad they put it on Netflix, and I'm so glad I got the chance to watch it. And finally, what am I excited for in March? So, most of you, not all of you, but most of you have probably read Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. It's my favorite John Green book, and it's not even like a proper John Green book that he wrote entirely himself. But David Levithan has been writing a sequel called Hold Me Closer, the Tiny Cooper story. Tiny is one of the main characters in the novel. And it's a musical book. So from what I gather, from what David Levithan said, is that it's a musical book. So he wrote songs for it and stuff, and he's excited. He said he was excited to see people's interpretations of it being posted on places like YouTube. And I think that's such a cool concept, and I loved the original book. I'm so excited for this book to come out in March. I'm gonna try to keep doing these if I keep reading so many freaking books. Bye. I had one more thing I wanted to add into my monthly wrap-up. I started listening to podcasts this month, specifically Hello Internet. I love Hello Internet. It's CGP Grey and Numberphile just talking. I have listened to 1 or 2 episodes from a couple other podcasts, never got hooked, but they bounce off each other so well. If you're into podcasts, you should probably check it out because it is a really good one, really interesting. Okay, bye for real now.